It's already been quite a while since I've asked you whether or not you would like to see some LEGO hot take videos on this channel, and since the majority wanted to not only see a Lord of the Rings version, but a Star Wars one as well, here we are. I gathered the, in my opinion, most interesting takes from the community posts, and I will go over each of them in a moment. If you want to see your personal hot take in the next video, feel free to comment it down below and I may include it in the next episode. If you don't want to miss this or any future uploads, hit like and subscribe, and now let's get straight into the first hot take. And NeonBQ8NI says, people are saying Lord of the Rings doesn't have enough content to make a full line of continuous sets, while Star Wars has run out of ideas and is just recycling all of theirs. He then lists a couple of examples where LEGO remade certain ships over and over again, like the Millennium Falcon, the X-Wing, Luke's Landspeeder, as well as busts and helmets. Since this video is about Star Wars, I will focus more on the second part of his comment, and what I think he is essentially trying to say is that LEGO set selection is pretty bland, boring, and there aren't a lot of new and exciting releases, and to be honest, I agree with this take for the most part. While I do think that LEGO should always have the most iconic ships available like the X-Wing, TIE Fighter or Millennium Falcon, it does get pretty boring if you collect more than LEGO Star Wars. The Lord of the Rings theme creates excitement with pretty much every set release, while most people don't care much about the newer Star Wars sets dropping. Sure, there are some nice and interesting ones here and there, but the current mix of remakes and 18+ display sets leaves very little room for new and exciting stuff, especially when it comes to playscale sets. The new bust subline is super similar to the already existing helmet line. UCS sets are mostly reserved for OT vehicles, with a lot of remakes as well, and LEGO has yet to do an interesting prequel diorama that covers a lightsaber duel. God knows why they thought it would be a great idea to release a Mos Espa diorama instead of Duel of the Fates, one of the most beloved duels in the whole franchise, but yeah, we got this one instead. Newer shows also kinda get ignored as well, because LEGO tries to balance the releases, which doesn't really work in my opinion. We got a total of 2 Bad Batch sets, 3 for Endor if you want to count the billable K2SO, and as of right now there are 0 rumored sets for Maul Shadowlord, one of the most beloved modern Disney era Star Wars show, leading to a lot of missing vehicles and, more importantly, characters. I really miss those old Clone Wars waves that focused mostly on new characters and vehicles from the newest season of the show. Did we really need a Darth Vader bust after we already got his helmet a couple of years before that, or couldn't we use that slot for a cool $50 playset based on Maul Shadowlord with some new characters like Devon or Lawson? This mock by Brick Wizard Customs would have been a perfect $40 to $50 set that LEGO could have made instead of another boring bust that is insanely similar to the already existing helmet. I know there is a lot of new content coming up and we finally got a bigger wave for the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, but do we really need to discontinue the Imperial Star Destroyer just to release another one in a couple of years? I don't really think so. But what do you think would be the best solution to this dilemma? Please let me know what you think about the current state of LEGO Star Wars in the comments down below. Now moving on to the second hot take, and Dave Builds Brick says Sith minifigures not having pupils doesn't automatically make them terrible. I think it's an interesting take that the eyes are considered the window to the soul, and the Sith are meant to be evil, soulless beings, so I think it actually kind of helps to get across the idea that they lack any decency or humanity. So while I do understand where you're coming from, I have to disagree with this take. I just don't see any reason for LEGO removing details from a minifig that were accurate to the source material before and then finding a somewhat argument or excuse for that. I also don't think that the missing pupils automatically make the figure terrible, but it's a very valid point of criticism that needs to be said. We know that LEGO can print those eyes correctly, no matter if Jedi, Sith or other creatures, and for some reason they changed this even though nobody asked for it. The eyes were perfectly fine before that, and randomly removing the pupils just because they felt like doing so is still mind-boggling to me, and I just can't wrap my head around this. It doesn't look as bad on Sith minifigures as it does on Jedi or other figures, but it still looks pretty bad in my opinion, and I hope that we don't see more of this in the future. The third hot take comes from Corey Kalkman8478, and he says the 2025 Juggernaut is a good set. Y'all are hating on it too much, it actually has a proper interior to place minifigures. Ain't gonna lie, this is probably the wildest take in this video, and I fully disagree with this take. While I can kinda understand why you would say that the set is overhated, since some people act like it's the worst set ever, which it probably isn't, it is pretty much up there, especially considering the outrageous price tag. I'm not gonna talk about why the set should have been a UG80 instead of a Juggernaut, but the set itself is just very disappointing. Yes, the overall build looks like a Juggernaut and gets most of the proportions right, plus it comes with an interior that is more detailed than on previous Juggernauts, but that's pretty much it. It is insanely tiny, especially compared to previous Juggernauts and considering the price you're paying, and while the interior is a little more fleshed out, it is tiny as well and doesn't allow for the troopers standing up on the sides, which also is a little bit goofy. The structure and stability of the build is laughable, and while I like the minifigures, you can't deny that they have quite a couple of issues and once again suffer from the printed wastegapes. I honestly don't see why anyone would try and defend the set, especially considering the LEGO charges $160 retail for a set that has a little over 800 pieces while coming with a lot of errors. Yeah, the price is the biggest reason why people hate this set, but rightfully so. The price tag is just that insane. If you like the Juggernaut, that's totally fine, but it is far from a good set, and I also wouldn't say it's overhated. Criticism is necessary so things can improve. If you don't want to pay $50 for a microfight at some point, you will have to criticize LEGO every once in a while when it's needed. Continuing with the hot take from Space Penguin, and he actually wrote two, but in this video I'm gonna focus on the second one. And he says, I prefer the 2025 U-Wing over the 2016 one. It's a more accurate and slimmer design, while it still has most of the mechanisms seen in the previous version while being a far cheaper set. I'm pretty torn on this take, and while I disagree, I can totally understand why you would prefer the newer version. Adjusted for inflation, the old U-Wing was about $40 more expensive than the 2025 version, but to be fair, it also came with an extra minifig and about 70 pieces more, while being significantly larger. The 2025 U-Wing uses a lot of smaller pieces and definitely has a slimmer and overall sleeker design, but I heavily prefer the engines, cargo bay, cockpit area and overall size of the 2016 model. Especially the cargo area is pretty iconic for me, and that it's even smaller on the new one was a little disappointing. Overall, it's still a great set for both display and play, and I really love my 2025 copy as well, and it's still present on my display since I got it last year. It really is one of the best remakes in recent years, and it's a great set. Overall, I think it comes down to personal preferences, and I can totally understand why someone would prefer the remake over the OG set, so while I disagree, great take. Already the fifth and last hot take for this video comes from Michael Kadak 1915, and he says, I'd like to see more sequel era sets, at least for The Force Awakens. A new version of Post-Black Leader X-Wing, the First Order AAL transport, or an updated Colorants TIE silencer would be cool. First of all, whether or not you like the sequels, I certainly don't, you have to admit that fans of those movies definitely exist, and they really don't get a lot of merchandise and collectibles nowadays. This is obviously due to sequel sets not selling as well as prequel or OT sets, and because of that I do understand why there's less and less sequel stuff being made. That being said, I do partially agree with this take, since in my opinion everyone deserves sets from their favorite media, and if it's the sequels, then you deserve some sets as well. As I said, it's no secret that I don't like the sequel trilogy at all, but I do know what they go through. I'd love to see more Andor sets, more prequel display sets, and sets based on more Shadow Lord, and the desire for more sets based on films or shows that I enjoy is pretty much the same desire that sequel fans have, just towards the sequels. I wouldn't say that LEGO should make a whole wave of sequel sets, and they should definitely test the waters with some heavy hitters first, but a sequel set here and there can't really hurt and would be awesome for fans of this very trilogy. But these were already all hot takes that I'm gonna discuss in today's video. Do you agree with me, and what hot takes do you consider to be true? Please tell me in the comments down below. Now I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I would highly appreciate a like to support the channel. If you're new, go to the subscribe button, and if you want to check out some of my other videos, still appearing on screen right now.